Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I am Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends, these are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, I'm so excited about my guest today. This is so much fun. He's a true leader in the realm world of work-life balance. He's a guiding force for leaders seeking to elevate employee engagement and achieve peak performance, all while harmonizing the intricate blend of work, life, and personal values. I love it. I'm so excited to chat with him today. Is that not awesome? So what you're doing. I love it. But before we get him on here, I do want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. So today's show is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, or promotion, Walt is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, he can help you find a solution to match your needs. To learn more about Walt, you're going to want to go to photosbywalt.com. All right, Jerry, for some reason, Jennifer just can't talk today. She's like just, stuttering all over her words. So the rest of this is going to be good.
We're recording on a Friday afternoon. I think that's part of the kryptonite for us.
I think you're right about that. So we're all on a different day. Hey, it may be really good today, right? It might just go a different direction. So, all right. So Jerry Dugan, he is the owner of BtR Impact, an entity dedicated to empowering managers and directors to pursue enhanced employee engagement, performance, and retention. His leadership framework, known as the Tent, is a testament to nearly 2 decades of hands-on leadership experience, training, and mentorship within the corporate landscape. As the author of Beyond the Rut and the host of a podcast of the same name, Jerry extends his impact beyond the business realm. And this is what I love. His overarching goal is to guide men to become the husbands and fathers their families truly need. Simultaneously, he encourages them to chase it after their career and business success while staying true to their authentic selves. So, Jerry, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today and learn a little bit more about your journey and what you're doing.
Same here, Jennifer. And you're right. That does sound cooler. So if you can send that bio back to me, I'm going to use it.
Hey, for our listeners, we love AI, right? Like it just is, it's so fun because like you, I went through this whole AI thing and I've been using it for my show notes and I've been using it for different things. Well, the other day I was looking at my website. I was going back to my website and I'm like, I need to freshen up my story a little bit and get it to look a little different. So I took the whole story, copied, pasted into the AI, and it spit out a whole new story for me. Same content, just delivered a little bit differently.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's given me a lot of prompts. Like I've even had articles through ChatGPT where I looked at the whole thing. I'm like, well, I would reword this. I'd reword this. And I'd wind up rewriting like 100% of it. But if it weren't for what it gave me in the first place, I'd have nothing because I had writer's block in the moment. So it's a great tool. So
it is. And I'm with you on the whole prompting. It does. It can give you sometimes, it's just for me, sometimes, I don't know about you, Jerry, but sometimes for me, it's just the articulation. Like, what is the word I'm looking for? How to convey it. And I love it because I can just put in the sentence in there and be like, help me convey this, like in a different way. And then it'll spit it out. And I'll be like, oh, there it is. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I'm so excited. So I want to open this up. I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing because I feel like you and I are kind of doing similar things and maybe in a different landscape, but kind of the whole work-life harmony thing and teaching people how to live their whole authentic selves in both work and life and carrying that over. So I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing specifically to make a difference in the corporate sector.
Yeah. So I do keynote speaking and workshops that really aim specifically at the skills and the approach that managers and directors can take so that their employees are much more engaged, which in turn boosts their performance and increases their likelihood of staying where they are, especially after a 2 to 3 year window where organizations have seen the highest rate of turnover, the highest drop or the biggest drop in engagement, and also the biggest rise of disengagement. And, a term quiet quitting became a thing. For a while, you just call these guys your low performers or you're disengaged.
Right.
But, there are people showing up to work that just do enough to not get fired, and maybe even less than that. It's like, let me fly under the radar even more. And they're just looking for the next wave they can catch and move on to somewhere else. So, there are things that managers can do that it's right there in front of them, and they don't realize it, and they know they need to do something. And the managers I've spoken with when I was doing my market research, that they know that the organizations are that they work in are doing what they can to adjust for compensation, to create career pathways, and also create better wellness at work, but it's not coming fast enough, or it's not enough. And really, people quit their leaders, they don't quit their jobs. So,
Mm.
again, the leaders are looking for what can they do, and that's where tent comes in.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. And you're so right about that. I feel like, we've all kind of been in that place at one time or another where we're sort of doing that quiet quitting, right? Like we're in something
Hmm.
and it may be a work, it may be a project, but we're in that space where we're just sort of just showing up to go through the motion, right? Like to looking for what's the next thing that's going to take us off on the journey out of there. Right. So I
Yeah,
love what you're doing. And you're right. I think when people don't quit, they quit leaders, they quit the people that are leading them. And a lot of times I feel like, from talking to other people in the workforce, that a lot of times leaders just don't really take the time to get to know where their people are and how to put them in the best places and how to keep them in. Right. I was at an event not too long ago where they were actually talking about human resource, and they were saying, what do you do with those middle people? Like you've got the people that are the performers, the people that are up at the top, right? And then you've got the people that aren't, but you got this middle group that's loyal. Like you just
yeah,
said, they show up every day, right? And how do you keep those guys engaged and make sure they know they're valued and appreciated so they want to continue coming back, right?
exactly. Yeah. And also to connect the dots for them, that the work they are doing day in and day out does play into a bigger picture. It has meaning, not just for the boss who says, yes, thank you, you helped me hit my metrics, you get to come back another day. It's like, hey, because you did these activities, it impacted our customers in this way, and now our customers are able to go on and do these things, or they're able to go back to their loved ones if it's a hospital or a health system, which is where a lot of my experiences come in. um, or like in the military, it's like, hey, we got our mission carried out because of you doing what you needed to do and going above and beyond even. And here's how we effectively changed the landscape of this situation. And not enough leaders are doing this. Yeah, I came across a survey where 29% of employees have not received any kind of recognition from their manager in over a
Mm.
year. And it's like, what? That's like one out of three people almost.
Wow.
And the crazy thing is that the employees who receive regular recognition from their managers are six times more likely to stay than somebody who isn't. And it doesn't matter if they're a high performer, middle performer, or low performer. If they're not getting that recognition, if they're not feeling like they're being noticed, and they also don't see those opportunities for growth, which are all the key things that Gallup picked up on, really. I mean, they had a report that came out last year, but when you look at all their reports, it's the
Yeah.
same data time and again. Like, it's kind of like that. We keep repeating the same mistakes over and over, and
Right.
maybe as a whole, we're doomed to keep making those same mistakes. But then, as the individual manager or the individual director or small business owner, we can be the one that goes against the grain and says, "Well, if they're all going to go that way, like lemmings, we're going to go this way." Is it lemmings or
Yeah.
lemurs? Lepers. I'm thinking lepers.
It
Okay.
all
Anyway,
sounds good,
lemons.
whatever it is.
The
I
little
know
one
what
that
you
jumps off
mean.
the cliff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say all this too, because I shared with you that my background, I was with Mary Kay in the sales force for 22 years. So recognition is a huge part
Yeah.
of that culture. And so for me, I understand that and the value of it. And I've always said this, because women, and I think men are the same way. I mean, I think we do. Women specifically will stay in a company because of culture. Like they will
Mhm.
stay in because of the way that the company is structured and the culture. And it's funny because I had to fill out a survey. I can't remember what it was, but it was it may have been in LinkedIn. They were asking me certain things that would make me want to stay with an organization. And one of the things I put in there was culture, values and culture, because you can teach somebody, I feel like, skills, right? But you can't teach people to have shared values with you. And when you have a company that has values in place where they respect their people, they show appreciation, you have a different organization because people will move with that. People will want to be involved. They'll want to be, when they're feeling included, they want to be included, right?
Yeah.
It's common sense. And you're right. I think a lot of companies miss that because they don't do that. So for me, that's a no brainer. I'd be like, why are
Yeah.
you not doing that in your company? You need to have recognition and some kind of whatever that looks like, scoreboard, whatever you want to do where they get praised, because a lot of times they're only hearing what's going wrong, like what's going wrong with those metrics you're talking about. They're not meeting them. Nobody
Mm.
wants to hear that every day. I don't care who you are.
That's
Nobody wants to hear that every day.
Yeah, at some point you got to hear that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that framework tent, it stands for trust building, empowering, navigating, and thriving together. And we're talking about that last letter, thriving together, that last stake in the ground. And the whole idea is if you put these four stakes in the ground, you're going to be able to pitch a leadership tent that is psychologically safe for your employees. So they're going to be willing to take risks, share ideas, have conflict of ideas, and really work through problems together. They're going to be open. If they're struggling at home and it's impacting their work life, they're going to be more willing to share that with you and work with you to create a win-win scenario. And we're talking about that lack of recognition. Yeah, if we're not thriving, if I don't feel like my work is making an impact, that I'm not moving forward in some way, and we're not celebrating any of these things other than, hey, you made it another year without getting fired, I'm probably going to go find a place that will give me that kind of recognition.
Exactly.
And in this current labor environment, lots of people out there lining up to be the Jody in a sense.
Right.
In the military sense, Jody is the side piece that the spouse runs off with. It's in Latino terms, Sancho. So
Sancho.
there
You're
are
making me think
companies
of
out
that
there,
song.
right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, there are companies out there looking to take your best performers from you.
Yeah.
And if you're not taking care of at least your high performers, they will look for something else. And I mean, it's kind of the snowball reaction. Like if they're not getting fed, they're not finding joy in their work where they are now,
Right.
and they can't create that kind of joy where they are, because your high performers typically are those go-getters.
Right.
And there can be things inside the culture that hem them up, that take their idea and squash it every single time. I've worked for a leader or two where I was asked for solutions and I brainstormed 5 or 6 really good ideas. I liked maybe 1 or 2 of them, and to be told that I came up with all stupid ideas because I just don't know. And it's
Yeah.
like, what? I've got a degree in this thing. I've got 10 years experience, and I'm doing it right now.
Right.
What do you mean I don't know what I'm talking about? And it's just like, well, you haven't been here as long as I have. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
well, that's, you know, and then that just is a sign that you're working for somebody who's insecure as well. And people pick up on that, and they're
I
like,
agree.
this leader doesn't get it. That company over there, I hear they're pouring into their people. They're providing certifications, pay increases, more paid time off. I don't have to be here anymore. And people, I think you had said, you know, the women that especially at Mary Kay, they stay for the culture. And
Hmm.
people will tough things out in a rough season if the culture is good. I know I've had
Yep.
jobs where I took less pay than my counterparts in the industry because I liked where I was. I liked the
Right.
people I worked with. I liked what the company stood for. I felt like the work I was doing was making a difference. And I left organizations where I got paid more than my counterparts. And I thought, no, this is taking a toll on myself, my health, my family. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is good. It kind of leads me into this next part. What I love about what you're doing is it's not just about, because let me preface this and say leadership, I feel like is really encompassing of a lot of different things. It's where we
Yeah.
are relationally, spiritually, physically. I mean, it's a lot of encompassing things here. And so, what I really love that you're doing, because I think it aligns with a lot of what I do with my entrepreneurs when I work with them, is how do we bring together the work and the life and make it all part of what we're doing? Because there's no real. I think for a long time we had this idea that they were separate. Leave your work at home, your business over here, the work over here. But really, whatever's going on in the home life and in your personal life really affects this over here, and vice versa. If this is bad, this is bad. If this is bad, this is bad. So there's really no separation. It's bringing it all together and helping. For me, it's the entrepreneur. How do I help them be effective as a leader? Because they need to recognize that those two have to come together, right? So I love that you're really doing those two, or seeing the importance of those two components.
Oh yeah. A friend of mine who was a guest on my podcast, Johnny Serpola, he used to run Camping World. I think he used to own it. No, he owned the company that got bought out by Camping World. But anyway, um, he had spent a couple years working on some family issues, when he came back, he noticed the culture in his company had shifted, and it was kind of that same thing. Like, we're here to do a job. We're not here to be nice to each other. And he's like, wait, 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 wait. We spend a third of our day here, Monday through Friday. What do you mean we can't get to know each other and enjoy being around each other? That's ridiculous. On top of that, I know you're mad about things at home and you're bringing that into here. And I know I'm upset about things in my home and I'm bringing that here. And he really made an effort to make that shift organizationally, that we have to take care of each other so that we're bringing our best selves to the workplace, which means we also got to keep in mind that we're all people. And I even would pick up on this. This is like, oh man, I can't believe I've been out of the Army for more than 20 years. I feel old. But anyway, I'll get over that. Actually, this would be 20 years. Okay, out of the Army. And so the point I'm trying to make, though, is that even when I was in the Army, you knew when a commander had a good home life and when that commander had a bad home life. And it correlated with how much time we spent after 5 o'clock at work and how many times we went to the field in a given year and how long we went to the field. So somebody who had a good home life was like, look, guys, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We got everything done. I got a battalion meeting I got to go to, or I got a brigade meeting at 4. I'll get you all caught up in the morning. Everybody go home, take care of your homes. I'll see you tomorrow. Don't drink and drive. Bye. And you're like, yeah, we're going home. And they're even the guys that'll let you go home early on a Friday. Like, all right, it's noon and we have absolutely nothing. So here's your safety brief. Stay off this street. Stay out of these strip clubs. Don't drink and drive. Don't do drugs. Be safe. Go. And off they go. Oh, and here's the number for the chaplain in case you get arrested, because I'm not picking you up.
It's great.
Compare that to, a leader in the Army who did not have a good home life. That leader would make you stick around until 5 o'clock, sometimes past 5 o'clock, and then they would come out of a command meeting, and instead of sending you home and giving you the taskings for the next day, that leader would give you the taskings that just came out of that meeting and say, you can't leave until this is done. Which sometimes they kept you an extra 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Sometimes they kept you an extra 3 hours. And in the end, it was always something that could wait till the next day because, most of these times we're not at war. But then you'd also notice, man, we go to the field like every other month for like 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And then you start to find out, oh, Commander so-and-so does not like his wife. They argue all the time. And what better way to stay out of that than to stay at work until 7 p.m. every night and to go to the field in the name of serving his country as much as possible. And you're like, gosh, and it was just like, it never failed. Like if we went to the field a lot, there was often a commander there who did not get along at home. And then the opposite, when things were going well, it's like, I don't want to be here either. Go home, guys. Good job. So big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
I could certainly see that. And I think that gets back to, like the misery loves company thing. I think when people are, I think it takes an incredible, I think leadership is about moving away from managing people, right? It becomes about, you really have to think big picture to be a leader. You've got to think outside of yourself. And I talk a lot about this in my program, really about this subject object shift. And that's a whole nother conversation we could get into, but really this idea of, when you're in something, looking at the big picture, right? Really stepping out. And I think good leaders are able to do that. They're able to look at things and say, okay, where's the win-win in this? And if I've got that situation, my home life might be crappy, but now am I projecting my garbage on other people? Am I now spewing that out on other people? And am I really thinking about the people around me? So I think leadership is definitely something that's developed over time. And I love what you're doing and really bringing that in there. And thank you for using that analogy, because I think that's really good. A lot of times when I listen to people talk, I always say, like you just said, if you spent any time out there, you'll start figuring out. I think people incriminate themselves. Just let people talk. If you shut up long enough and listen, you find out a lot of things about people. You know what I mean? Okay. It's like you will find out their motivation, their intentions, if you just let them keep talking. And then if you let them long enough, you'll start figuring out why. Once you find out the intentions and let them keep talking, you'll figure out why they're doing what they're doing, because the next several conversations really start portraying all of that, So
yeah,
it's a cool thing. Love it. So yes, you were in the military, and you have a degree. It's in science, right? Like something. What? Tell me that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was a pre-med student when I was in
That's
my
right.
late teens, early 20s. So it was a bachelor's degree in chemistry biology. So it was like 7 chemistry courses, 7 biology courses. I barely passed with a 2.1 GPA. And I think that's because my faculty advisor applied a new rule, which was I could replace my failing grades with my passing ones, but just enough to get a 2.1 GPA. So when I saw that and they said, "Hey, do you want to get your degree?" I remember going to the registraire before I left for the Army to just get my transcripts so that I could go in with E4 rank and get paid just a little bit more. And while I was at the registraire, the lady asked me, "Hey, do you want your degree while you're here?" And I'm like, "Degree? Yes, that's exactly why I'm here. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, thank you." And she went to the back to go get it because it was still on paper. And this is, yes, guys, long enough ago that I couldn't just look it up on the internet. But I turned to my dad while she was in the back and I said, "Dad, as soon as we get this piece of paper, we got to go." And he's like, "Really? I don't think I'm supposed to get this degree." And as soon as she handed it to me, I said, "Thank you very much." And boom, out the door. And I looked at it on the drive home. It was, a 3 hour, 4 hour drive home. Uh, and everything was legit. I did the calculations on my GPA and I saw where like a new rule was applied, and I was like, "Wow, Dr. Richmond hooked me up." Uh, I guess he knew I was out of money too, so I
Yeah.
wasn't going to be able to come back and retake anything else at that point.
They're like, we're
Uh,
getting you out, son.
yes, exactly. And but I still thought I wanted to be a doctor because that's
Yeah.
why I was a pre-med student anyway. I got recruited to that school, by the way, for tuba performance.
Oh wow. Very cool.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't see that coming because I'm a short guy, and they're like, "Really, tuba?"
That's great, Jerry.
It was a joke in 7th grade. I was 4'11" at the time, and
Yeah.
nobody thought I could pull it off. And I was like, "Bet." And
Yeah, you
sure
just
enough,
challenged me on that one.
yeah.
Yeah, right? I love it.
But when I played that first note in that horn, it was like, "Ball." I was like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this is it." And I
This
played
is
that
your
horn,
instrument.
gosh, 7th grade, 8th grade, all through high school, all through college. So about what, 10 years I
Yeah.
played tuba.
Wow. Wow.
Um, but somewhere in there, I switched over to pre med as my major and didn't do well. Joined the Army to be a medic. Uh, and did 4.5 years, served in combat,
Yeah.
treated some patients, and it was when I got out and my first job was as an education coordinator with a healthcare system. About a year in, my boss asked me if I was ready to go to nursing school and begin that journey to work back into med school, and I hesitated, and he picked up on it. And so
Mm.
Paul Catucci said, "Wow, we thought you would jump on this without hesitation, but I mean, there is hesitation. You're not sure if you want to go back to school to be a nurse." And I said, "Yeah, I don't know. Like, I've been in the hallways now and thinking the idea of being in one hallway every day, all day, I don't know if I can do that." And he said, "Go home and think about that. Like, don't worry, you still have a job. Like, we still need you to do the things you're doing. We're
Yeah.
just not going to send you to nursing school if you don't want to go. And if you don't want to be a nurse, don't do it. Don't waste your time. We got all kinds of cool programs. So if you decide to go pursue some other degree, we can reimburse you for that too. I mean, we got the grants, so you know it because you do the paperwork on it." And I said, "Great." Got home, talked about it with my wife, prayed about it, and realized I don't want to be a nurse and I don't want to be a doctor either. And oh, wow, that was never my dream to begin with. That was my mom's dream. She wanted me to be
Wow.
the doctor.
Yeah.
Um, Partly because she probably wanted me to be able to brag, or she wanted to be able to brag to all her friends. She's from Thailand, so typical tiger mom thing. "Oh yeah, my son's better than your son," that kind of thing. And I'm like, "Oh man, that kind of blows." Like, it wasn't like you can save lives and make a difference in the world. It was,
Right.
I need to be able to tell my friends their kid stinks compared to my kid, and I never gave her that satisfaction. So,
Right. Yeah.
but yeah,
Blazed your own trail.
yeah, and so that's a big part of my whole message behind the beyond the rut is there's a lot of folks that my friends and I would come across that there used to be 3 of us on the show, and working in men's ministry together in our church, we came across a lot of men who they were married to, their college sweetheart, they have kids, they have all the boxes checked of what success is supposed to look like or what they were told success is supposed to look like,
Yeah.
but deep down inside they just felt empty, they felt stuck. They clearly didn't like their job, they were just in it because they felt like they were obligated to bring that kind of income home, or that this was the stepping stone to the thing they really wanted, but they didn't see that light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And so Beyond the Red is all about that. What's the point of pursuing a job or pursuing an income if it is going to cost you your joy, cost you your family in the process? That's not worth it, or even take a toll on your health, either mental health or
Right.
physical health. And all that started to come together for me while I was in the Army. It was like, yeah, I was in a spot, like, I guess after a combat tour, doors open up in the Army. It's like, wow,
Mhm.
you're a combat veteran, you're a war hero. And it's like, come to this program, get this rank a lot faster. Now you're in a command position, or you're in a leadership role. I guess you're always in a leadership role in the Army. But the thing that would also happen is I would deploy a lot more, and I would shoot up through the ranks fast. But the cost would be that I saw my family maybe 5 or 6 months out of the year, if
Mm.
that. And that wasn't, as much as I loved the Army. Like, I was probably one of the more gung-ho guys in my units. Like I would volunteer, and if I got voluntold that I was going on a mission, I was like, all right, cool. And I'd start gearing up, like, this is go time. This is why I signed up. But once I got married and had kids, it was like, you know, getting blown up doesn't let you see your kids as much as you want to see them. Like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
you
Yeah.
can't really run with them if you're missing two legs.
Right.
And so those were kind of like wake up calls for me that, wow, I do a line of work that could really damage me or kill me, and I'll be robbing my wife and my children of having me.
Yeah.
And that was my big decision to leave a job I felt fulfilled in. So, going back to that whole like work culture thing, I loved my work so much that I was willing to stay in another enlistment term, but I didn't love them more than my family. And so as much as I missed the Army, I'm also glad I made that decision to leave it and be wherever my family needed to be.
Yeah. This is good. Good. And thank you for chiming in about your podcast, because that was going to be my next question, to tell us about this,
Oh, cool.
or talk about that. The thing is, I think the overall deal we were talking there was really about, like our priorities and our values. And you're right. I've kind of said this several times throughout my show, that I feel like so many people, they come, they do this, the plan that's laid out. It's like, go to college, get married, have they do all this stuff because they think they need to do all these things, and they don't really follow their own journey, like their path. And it's usually something happens, like you have this moment, either you have a crisis or you have this moment where I like to say it's like a coming to Jesus moment, where you realize,
Yeah.
what are your priorities and what are you doing? And are you really doing your life purpose and the things that you're called to do? And I think it's a beautiful thing when we have the ability to recognize that, you know, maybe we want to take this path, or maybe we want to go this way. And maybe we're educated in this area, but maybe that's not what we want to do. And we want to jump off and go a different direction. And it's okay. And I think that's what's great about, it sounds like what your show is, and it's really what mine is. It's really just showing that we can live this extraordinary if we're willing to make different decisions, right? You have to start, and every
Oh, yeah.
start begins with a decision. And so I love that, and I think it's great when we have those moments. I don't think everybody has that. Not everybody. I mean, I think a lot of people go through life and just do what they think they should be doing, and they continue, and then they get to the end, and it's like, well, I wish I would have done or could have done. And I always joke and say, I don't want to be, I don't know about you, but Jerry, I don't want to be that person when I'm on my deathbed going, I wish I would have done that and I could have done. No, no, no.
Yeah.
We're going to live it. We're going to live the life and do it.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the guests on my show, a guy named Brian, is a hospice chaplain. He's
Okay.
a hospice administrator now, so he's sits in the office and doesn't get to the patient bedside as much. But he shared with me on the show that one of the things that breaks his heart all the time is when he is at the bedside and that patient in their final moments is really thinking about all the things they wish they had done. Um, but now they're at the end of their life and
Right.
there's no chance. And they're lucky if they just have their loved ones by their side in that
Right.
respect. And
Right.
that just drove home for me, something that's just been on my heart for years and years and years. And I would always notice whether it was a family member who was elderly, or again, back in the Army when I was in my 20s taking a space available flight from Germany to the US, there was a group of, in this particular always sticks out of my mind. There was a group of retired folks on the plane with me. So like we're in there with like Air Force, like it's Air Force crew on an Air Force plane, military cargo in there, and then they have these like cargo netting seats for us. And
Mm.
here we are just getting in there with our bags, and we click in, and these planes have no um, insulation to them, so you hear everything. You hear the engine, you hear the wind blowing over the wings. It is loud. Like they give you earplugs to to manage and to bear the 8 to 10 hour flight. But I got to overhear these guys talk when we were at in Bangor, Maine. We got diverted for a storm, and they were just talking about how much they enjoyed traveling Europe. Like they took this space available flight, and they were traveling from like the US to Italy, and then they went to Germany, and they went to England and back to Germany, and now they're going back home, and they were just like, yeah, it's too bad so and so couldn't come with us. And like, yeah, well, he's got to be close to the hospital these days. And it's like, yeah, it's sad though. Like he got out of the army, he went to work and like worked for 30 years, retired, and then he got sick and he never got to do the things he said he would do.
Mm.
And then they're
Wow.
saying something to the effect of, at least we were able to go do it for him in his honor. And it was like,
Yeah.
wow, these guys are the few of their many friends who are still capable to travel and tick off items of their bucket list, while they had friends who were either bedridden or had to be within a certain distance of their hospital, their doctor, or be within a pharmacy that would have their medication on hand tied into their insurance. And I thought in my 20s, like, wow, how sad is that to say, when I retire, I will go somewhere, and then I get to retirement age and find out I can't go because
Right.
my body is broken, and
Yeah.
or I never made enough money to go. And I just thought, man, what a waste. And then the millennials coming behind me are like, yeah, life's too short. I'm gonna not build a career yet, and I'm gonna go travel. And I know a lot of adults gave them junk for that philosophy, and I'm sitting there looking
Yeah.
at these guys like, I think these kids are onto something. Like, why can't I? Oh yeah, I've got a wife and kids, and they're depending on income.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
man, what could we do to like get some kind of balance there? And I didn't make a
Yes.
lot of money in my 30s, but I remember working from home as a real estate agent, and again, during when the market tanked in 2007, 2008, even to 2010. But working from home, even though we were like dirt poor, almost lost our home a number of times, the things I would never trade was that when my kids wanted me to volunteer in their school when they were in elementary school, I was able to go. It's like, oh, I got nothing going on today. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I can't bug my clients twice.
Yeah.
They'll get annoyed and fire me. So I would just do the things I needed and then go into the school, have the background check already done, and I could volunteer in their classroom all day. And they remember those things.
Right.
During the summer, it's like, hey, Dad, we're bored. Hey, let's go to the museum. I forget, it was like $20 for the whole summer or something like that. And they would just do arts and crafts right there next to a dinosaur. And I'm like, this is so cool. And
Yeah.
I got a cell phone, so I'm like working while they're coloring. And they're like, wow, Dad, we talked to a pirate. I'm like, I don't think he was a pirate. I think that was a reenactor for the Christopher Columbus ship. But,
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
R.
Right. Right. This is so
But,
great. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like, I'd much rather have that than to say I sold X million of dollars of product or homes
Yeah.
and then not have that connection with my kids. And,
Right.
and there's a way to have both. And that's the key thing there too, is, you know, you can succeed in your career, have some healthy boundaries, and also be there for your family. And I know lots of people who did that. A guy named Brian Buffini, who's a real estate broker who now teaches other real estate agents this, he and his wife, Beverly, sit down every morning, and now their kids are fully grown, so I don't know if they don't do this for the kids as much, of course, but they do this still for themselves.
Right.
It's at like 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning on a Monday. This is because they're both early risers. They share their calendars with each other, and they say, hey, great, this is something I've got coming up. I could use your help to do this, this, and this. And then he's blocking that in his calendar, and then he shares with her, hey, these things are also going on. And then she'll block those things out on her calendar, and they're making sure that they didn't miss a single swim meet, baseball practice, baseball game, family function, and they still ran their businesses and their jobs around that. And
It's great.
um,
Yeah.
it's just, if you can find something that allow you to do that, earn your income, align with what you love doing, and be able to take time for your family, you've found the sweet spot.
Love it. Love it, Jerry. Well, and I think that's the overall message of this whole show. And I think you're embodying that. What we're all talking about is this whole idea of, like we said, bringing it all together. It's not this or this. It needs to be a both coming together, work, life, all of it together. So this has been great. So I do want to ask you this question. If our audience wants to get in touch with you, maybe they want to follow the podcast, pick up your book, or find out a little bit more about what you're doing and where you're going, where would you like us to send them?
Yeah, the one spot to rule them all. Sorry, I watched a lot of Lord of the Rings, guys.
It's all
Um,
good.
Beyond. So if you go to my main website for the podcast, beyondtherut.com, from there, you'll find links to everything else, my social media. Right there on the homepage is a work with me picture. It's me on stage. I'm very proud of the picture, which is why the picture is so ridiculously big on there. I probably need to be humbled a bit. So anyway, you click on that photo, it'll take you to my actual company where you can book me for a speaking engagement for your organization. If you click on blog, it'll take you to everything I've ever published over the last 8 years. And then podcast, if you just want to subscribe to the podcast, you click on podcast. You can choose the player of your choice, subscribe there, and if you want to listen to my audiobook, so my book Beyond the Rut is out there as paperback, ebook, and audio.
Okay.
If you want the audiobook for free, just go to beyondtherut.com/audiobook. I'll hook you up.
Okay. Awesome. Very good. Thanks for sharing that. This is awesome, Jerry. Well, I'm excited about
Yeah.
what you're doing, and thanks for sharing all those links. We'll make sure when we get this out, we'll get everything in there so they know where to follow you and check out your podcast and all of that good stuff. So it's been fun. Thank you for all your stories and the wisdom and all the fun in this.
Oh man, my pleasure. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully it was cohesive enough for all of you. If not, my name's John Smith and my email is no.
It's all good. It's all good. We appreciate you, Jerry. So of course we do
Awesome.
want to say to our listeners, if you enjoy the show, head on over to Apple, give us a rating there. You can check us out on YouTube, hit that little subscribe button so you can follow all these incredible stories. And as I always say, said it earlier in the store or in this show, be safe, be kind to one another. And to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care. We'll see you next time.